when people have a product, like a special product, a soap or a lotion or some kind of jelly or something like that, and the sharks get into, okay, how do we scale? And they're like, well, I have to make the product in my garage. My family, my sisters, my nieces, but the sharks are like, no. We're outsourcing that. There's packaging companies that'll do that. And the founder is always like, they can't do it as well as we can. Our secret sauce is how we mix the wax or how we jar the jelly. And Mr. Wonderful and the others are like, there are companies that could do it just as good, if not better than you. And so the key is finding that company. And I'll tell you what to look for. Companies who say, this is the way we do it, forget it, because that's always going to fail.
Welcome to the CEO Bros Podcast, After Hours, with Brian Baldoff, co-founded, grew, and sold VHT Studios. Brad Baldoff, CEO and co-founder of By Your Side Autism Therapy Services. Matt Crope, the consummate entertainer, jack of all trades, and serves as our host.
It is After Hours, and it is time for
It's just Friday already.
I just realized that I'm bald.
You guys didn't tell me I'm bald.
I just noticed
It's
that.
been happening slowly over the last 40
We're in a
episodes.
full winter, dark by 6, so it's definitely After Hours right now.
Yeah, I like this.
All right, today we're going to be talking about outsourcing, and to highlight that point, we now go to Antarctica, where 3 other people are going to talk about this episode.
Wow, that was a great.
We cut over to some just barren site and that had that surprise.
3 people
waiting
just
for us.
shivering.
It's like, all right,
great
hey,
example.
I'm lost. Where are we? Help me. Hey, what are we talking about here?
Oh, we're talking about
I hadn't even.
so we're talking about outsourcing.
So much
You want to
easier.
which is kind of relevant today. I mean, if you look at the tariffs, there's a penalty if you make something outside, where you are. So within the practice of your business, where are we on outsourcing? There's pros and cons to both. So that's the topic today: outsourcing to your everyday operations.
Yeah, no, it's again. I think Brian and I have probably
We've come at it from different places.
Yeah, I don't necessarily say we're in some heated debate over it. I think we've both view it a little bit differently. I would say that I like to keep as much as possible in-house for control, and I think it's probably, now again, I'm speaking from the point of running an autism therapy business for the last 16 years. So I've been in a field. I haven't been, changing and starting different companies over this last period of time. So I'm talking about specifically in the space that I'm in and having a number of departments all servicing or supporting the rest of the operation from in-house. And it's important for us. And the single biggest example I can use just happened to us recently when we changed healthcare, when the entire billing system in healthcare got hacked, and a lot of the interchange in the billing between providers and the insurance companies got completely scrambled up. A lot of people, or a lot of companies, I should say, had to depend on outsourced RCM teams.
Yeah.
And they were relying solely on what information they gave back. I don't ever want to be in that position where you're depending on somebody outsourced to solve a crisis for you. Now, you can make the argument, how often does a crisis come up? How often you experience that, but it just happened. And had that been outsourced, that would have been a major disaster for us, because a lot of companies actually went out of business. Small independent practices that outsourced their RCM, their revenue cycle management, their billing, accounts receivable, those types of functions, they ran into a lot of trouble out there.
Because you have an in-house billing team that very arduous, paper claim by paper claim, but we're able to solve the problem immediately, although it took a long time because they were in-house.
Yes, walk down the hallway, could talk to our leader of that team. The team does a fantastic job. They have always done a fantastic job. So if you guys are out there watching, the billing and accounts receivable and finance team of buyer side is fantastic. And
You will never be outsourced.
and they can, well, they ask that occasionally because because that question comes up about, hey, would you guys consider outsourcing your RCM? And I always say, no, we will not. And we will not because our team does this, and this. And because we just went through a massive crisis, we're not going to outsource and depend on somebody to take care of something that we consider to be the fuel for our business. Now that's speaking from experience. So, Brian,
Right.
in your standpoint,
So, I mean, yeah, we're on the exact opposite end of the spectrum. Our whole business was about asking companies to outsource something to us. So don't do your own media, use us. And our, line always was, if it's critical to your business, but it's not a core competency, you should outsource. You should find a partner that's all they do and they do it extremely well, because you have no business try to do a different business. Like in real estate, your goal was to get clients and manage transactions. And we would see brokerages and builders and developers trying to build photography organizations. It's like, you know nothing about photography other than that you need it for your business. Let someone who does photography 100% of the time for real estate manage your programs for you. So that was our whole sales pitch.
What
So
were
we're
your
a big
questions
advocate
to them?
Well, it's a statement about your business. If it's critical to your business, if this thing, process, product, whatever is critical to your business, but it's not a core competency of yours, that's a recipe for find a partner, have someone else do it for you, outsource. Right. So when you ask about our approach and our philosophy, I mean, that's where it started. We're asking people to outsource something to us. So we outsourced anything that was not a core competency of ours. And the biggest one, which was a fight because a lot of people argued that it was a core competency of ours.
human resources.
No.
You're like, no, that was outsourced as well.
Oh,
and
no.
okay.
No.
Also,
But we did outsource.
also we got to put the crickets right there. That silence.
We did outsource human resources, so I would have someone else to blame. But no, the big one was
Nice little aside, So somebody else, I could punt that to that.
was photo editing. When we first started the business, we did all the editing in-house, and it was one of the things that differentiated our product. And we got to a point where we had probably 35 photo editors in-house. And we met a company from Norway that had an operation in Vietnam, and they convinced us that they actually did it better than us because it's all they did. They didn't shoot photographs. They didn't distribute photographs. They didn't do sales and marketing. They didn't. All they did was edit photographs, and they did it the way we did it. Like, we showed them how we did it, and they were able to replicate it. But most importantly, they were able to scale it. At some point, they had 300 to 500 people doing editing for VHD Studios.
So it wasn't a question of cost. Like, you weren't outsourcing.
Well, it partially was because
was it cost? Was it they did it better, or was it not your core competency?
Well, this is probably a bad example because there was arguments that this was a core competency.
Well, that was actually not a bad example. Let's hear about the arguments, because this is
a lot of people said you're a photography business, you should be doing your own editing. Most
I would agree with
photographers
that.
do their own editing. Our problem was we were trying to do photography.
Especially if you're going to charge me the silver package or whatever you called it from episode 7, where you said that there was a medium package and then there was a silver package, and I paid for that silver package.
Yeah,
and you outsourced the editing to Vietnam.
A big difference in those packages was the amount of editing. But so there was a couple of benefits. I don't want to get too far in the weeds, but one is we would finish shooting at 5, 6, 7 o'clock here in the United States, upload it to Vietnam. They would edit overnight, and it would be delivered back to us at 7 a.m. the next day. So that was a huge benefit. Since all they did was editing, they were able to spend a lot more time on the photographs than we were. And probably the biggest thing that does get to cost is the seasonality. So we had 35 people because that's what we needed in May at the peak of the real estate season.
I get it.
In December, we didn't need 35 people.
So it was nice to have an outsourced vehicle for a seasonal period of time.
Yeah, and
And
sometimes
then you eventually say, do we need this seasonal or can we do it completely? Did you bring it back? Did it go back and forth between?
it never came back. We kept a small unit in-house that did special projects, did R&D, did, emergency work. But we worked like this, us and Esoft out of Norway. We kind of helped each other build our businesses, and they did research and development on new methods and processes that they would bring to us. We would bring new things to them, and they would build them in. The biggest thing that they could do was scale. They could scale up and down. Like, say we brought on a new client, and they said, hey, to get started with you, we need you to shoot 2,000 hotels for us. Well, even if we had 35 people, we couldn't edit that in a timely manner, but they could ensure that it got edited quickly to our standards, delivered back to us.
Go ahead.
So that was
let me
a
ask
case
you-
for outsourcing.
so when
and that was as close to a core competency as you could get.
But sticking on core competency, is core competency you can do it, or I don't even have the time to do it? Is that part of
Can you do it exceedingly well?
Because I would think core competency, like, can we do it well? But even if you did it well, you can't do 2,000 hotels. So isn't it
So then
beyond?
we wouldn't be doing it well, right?
So it's cost, it's quality, it's scaling, it's
all
cost,
those
quality, speed, right? I mean that's your outsource kind of check the boxes here, right?
Any of those or all of those, right? And we were getting all three, which for that one made the case like, hey, do we really want to be the best photo editing company in the world, or do we want to be the best photography company in the world and leave the editing to a partner?
So if I put the same parameters on the scorecard I put on our team for going internally and say, okay, do I outsource RCM, right? And I think through this and I go, cost. Okay, I already know that our team, from a collection standpoint, collects more than the average outsourced provider. We know that it's fact. We know they do it in a faster time frame. So if we're talking about cost or speed, our internal team beats the outsourced providers every time. Apples to apples, they win on that. And then the third we said about scaling. And, quite frankly, I mean, if we were scaling at a more rapid pace, if we were opening centers at a speed which my RCM team says, I need all these extra people, it might be a consideration. But just using the RCM team as an example, I think that's probably the three checkpoints, right? Speed, scale, and cost.
Yeah.
And I think from our vantage point, speed and cost isn't important to us because our team does it faster internally. And then the fourth element, which is what I mentioned, is control. You can't control what's going on in Vietnam. I mean, and so say you need something done, you can't walk down the hallway, you can't pick up, you can pick up the phone and talk to them, but meaning it's different when they're your own employees, right?
Sure.
Versus an outsourced group that may have different priorities than you.
Yeah, let's come back to managing an outsourced partner. But another example was customer service. So that was a critical component of our business. We had to answer the phones. We had to talk to agents.
So we outsourced it.
No, we got a lot of...
Oh, man, that's every company.
We got a
core
lot of-
part of your business. You just outsourced.
No, we got a lot of pressure to outsource it from investors and bankers and people going, you could do this much more efficiently if you outsource that. We resisted. But for scaling purposes, we did find a partner to handle our overflow during peak call times or, holidays, weekends, things like that. And we went through a number of different partners before we found the right one. Now, interestingly, so we outsourced a lot of things. Those are the two closest that created the most, hey, wait a minute.
Well, you definitely outsourced the core competencies. No, I shouldn't say that.
Well,
we know that.
It is funny because, all of our photographers
naming
were,
all the core.
our photographers were independent contractors.
They kept the cafeteria internal.
Right, that we
think
ran.
about that.
I filled the coffee machine.
Even your videographers and photographers were outsourced.
We're independent contractors, right?
so you literally, Brian,
at a virtual business.
Well, his
contradicting.
business was you wanted people to outsource
their stuff to us, and it benefited our value proposition, which was we're crazy flexible, we're fast, we're affordable, and we just manage the quality. Because they could have gone out and contracted with this editing company in Norway. They could have contracted with a call center and done it themselves.
So wait, so
Like,
Brian,
why do that?
So I mean, you're touching on something that's really interesting though, because I mean, I know I'm making light of it, but I mean, there's so many actually core aspects of your business that you did outsource.
Right.
So I can't imagine then why, when you're in a seasonal business, you can't literally ramp everything down. Like you just shut everything off. Is that what you would do then? So you'd get to a point in the year where you're like, okay, videographers and photographers, they're not on payroll. They're independent contractors. We can shut them down.
Yeah.
We can shut down customer service.
Yeah.
We can shut down.
So your Vietnam, let's take your Vietnam.
Is that how you survive?
You could cut it down whenever you want.
Yeah, it was variable.
Is that how you think you survived through some really lean times? Is because
I don't know.
you did outsource so much?
Oh yeah.
That's interesting.
And you, when I don't want to jump ahead, but when you get into managing those relationships, that is critical. They really need to have good forecasts as far out as possible, so they can do what you need them to do. There's nothing worse than having a partner who says, I don't know how many orders I'm going to get next month. It's like, well, dude, I got to staff up for this. I got to have the machinery. I got to have the people. I got to, I've got other projects that are competing for the space. So once we locked in on our partners, it was like they were employees. I mean, they were virtual employees. They were right there.
Well, you were probably a sizable part of their business, or you were an important customer to them.
And
so
we grew together, so we knew each other well. I'm still friends with guys from the editing company.
Whatever, name dropper.
We talk all the time.
You know Jack from the editing company. You mean John Thomas, Brian? Yeah, John's a great guy. John's going to be on our podcast. I'm sure he'll love to hear about his 30 years of
I'll
editing.
give a shout out to Lars and Thomas. They're both still there.
the real name drop.
He starts dropping all these names that are not partners.
The funny thing was when we got acquired by a California tech company that was built by engineers, who built hardware and software. They wouldn't outsource anything except customer service. And so when they acquired VHT, they outsourced a big part of our customer service, and it, in my perspective, it was a disaster. Great partner and all, but just did not grow up with us, didn't understand the business. They were trying to support this company's product, our product. And as a business development, marketing person, the not outsourcing anything always frustrated me because it seemed like everything took a lot longer. Like, oh, we want to run this massive marketing campaign. Okay, well, our marketing department's backed up 3 months, and we don't have a person that's familiar with this particular.
So you went from solely or outsourcing a lot of your business at VHT to when you were acquired, you were rolled up under a company that didn't do a lot of things outsourced, and you just saw the speed drop.
The speed dropped dramatically because we were so used to saying, hey, we got this opportunity. We need to do this project. We need somebody who does this. Great. Here's 3 companies that do it. They all give us a proposal and a presentation. We pick one, and next week we're started. Whereas they would be like, well, no, that's something our marketing department handles. They're busy for the next 3 months. Put in a business case. We'll see if we can get them. I'm like, well, why can't we just get someone else to do it? It's like, what? What do you mean?
And those are literally your conversations. You'd bring it up and they're like, what are you talking about?
Had those pretty frequently. Like, we don't do that. And you see that a lot in engineering type companies. The not invented here. Like, if we didn't invent it, we're not going to,
Can you think of a moment in time where your outsourcing partner completely let you down, or was a very unsettling time for you? And what would that have been over? Like the fact that they weren't funded, or they had too many customers, you weren't priority, they weren't listening to you?
It's usually the biggest one is you're not their priority. You're just a number, and you can feel it. And it's like, okay, I could get a better partner. It doesn't make me question outsourcing. It makes me question choosing you as my partner, because we went through a lot of banks, a lot of accounting firms, a couple law firms, payroll, went through multiple payroll companies.
I guess I bring this up because I know you and I share the same, and I know Matt as well, because he runs it for By Your Side. I think we all share the same sentiments about having an exceptional client experience.
Right.
And so I can't imagine being in your seat, having so many things that are considered to be core competencies outsourced for things that could potentially impact
But payroll and
client
accounting and stuff like that's not a core competence.
Customer service,
Customer service and editing and photographers were our core.
You know what I'm saying is,
competencies.
you obviously were successful with it. You were able to do it. So kudos to you. I'm just saying, like, that would be unsettling for me. It's almost like you said,
Well, this
lack-
gets to doing
loss of control.
right?
And you had no quality control issues with Vietnam? I don't want to say no. You had,
None more than we would have with an internal team.
and you could, but with an internal team, couldn't you communicate those concerns faster, or you didn't have a
Not
problem?
really. We didn't have a problem.
Brian wasn't speaking Vietnamese at the time, but now he can speak fluent. Brian, please.
So this
say
gets to
thank you in
if you
Vietnamese.
are going to outsource, it brings on a whole different set of.
Well, Alyssa can say it in Japan, in Japanese.
Japanese.
Alyssa, can you say it? No, you can't. No.
Also,
She smiles off from a distance. We're like, that's not.
Wait, say what?
That's not thank you. Can you say thank
that's
you
been
in
a
Japanese?
Japan.
Domianicato.
For thank you.
Alyssa, is that right?
Arigato gozaimasu.
Okay, there we
Oh,
go.
mizu kudasai? May I have some water?
wow, okay, we're speaking. Okay, here, here we go. All right, we got Alyssa and Matt going back and
Alyssa's
forth in
answering
Japanese. Although Brian's just trying to say thank you in Vietnamese, and he can't.
Let's see if she responds. Oh, genki desu ka?
Big.
Very good. Hi, genki desu. How are you? I'm fine.
Well, we're welcoming our Japanese viewership, which
We will make sure we promote this one in Japan.
Yeah.
I think that we have Japanese viewers on one single hand at this point. 5, 4. But no, so anyways,
So yeah, let's go back to it's the same question Brad asked, but in detail. And both of you, in your minds, you have so much information, you go fast. You've said a couple times that you've gone through 2 or 3 before you found the right one. So someone's watching, it's an entrepreneur, a CEO. What was it that wasn't working that you had to try someone else and then try someone else? Give them a tangible, so when they're looking for outsourced providers, what didn't click with you? And I guess you maybe addressed what you weren't the top priority, but why did you have to find so many providers before you found the right one?
So this is a great question, and I think we talked a little bit about it because it comes up on Shark Tank all the time. When people have a product, like a special product, a soap or a lotion or some kind of jelly or something like that, and the sharks get into, okay, how do we scale? And they're like, well, I have to make the product in my garage. My family, my sisters, my D's brothers, are like, no. We're outsourcing that. There's packaging companies that'll do that. And the founder is always like, they can't do it as well as we can. Our secret sauce is how we mix the wax or how we jar the jelly. And Mr. Wonderful and the others are like, there are companies that could do it just as good, if not better than you. And so the key is finding that company. And I'll tell you what to look for. Companies who say, this is the way we do it, forget it, because that's always going to fail. They may have a great system, like, hey, we were doing this 20 years. This is how we do it. This is how we keep the cost down. This is how we do volume. You got to find a company who is open to this is how we do it. Figure out a way to make it work in your system.
So bend and pivot and flex to what you need
Yes.
in their current system. If they can't say that to you, word of caution.
Right. If they're very stiff with, nope, this is the way we do it, then yeah, you are going to lose the essence of your product or your service. Like the company that did our image editing, yeah, they did editing, but we said, look, well, we edit it this way and we do these things for customers. And they said, okay, let us go back. And a lot of the magic is figuring out the process. How do we keep these unique elements from being a distraction to the machine over here? Because that's the the death knell of most processes is exception.
Yep.
This is what we do. We make 99 out of 100 cookies this way, and then every day we got to make 2 of these other cookies. So if they can figure that out and build a what's the term, monkey proof process.
Yeah. Bulletproof.
Bulletproof would be a good word. I was thinking all kinds of adjectives there.
Did
you see my mind racing wild?
I think you're confused monkey wrench with bulletproof.
No,
but she doesn't even know.
No, so I almost said clown proof. because we've been talking about clowns and the circus in Japan. I'm like, but then I looked at Matt and I'm like, okay,
No,
that's
that's not
not
clown-proof.
That would be an insult, I think. I don't know. Would it? Is that politically correct?
But but Brian, wouldn't you
I
say
don't want to insult anybody, and I never know if I'm insulting people anymore.
Wouldn't you say though that it boils down to, because I come from a space that I don't want to outsource a lot. If push came to shove, and it checked off some of the boxes, I think I'd consider it. But isn't it safe to say if we kind of start to think about wrapping and outsourcing or trying to kind of like pull this all in, wouldn't you say, I mean, it's a byproduct of cost, it's a byproduct of speed, it's a byproduct of scaling, and it's a byproduct of control. 'Cause you're going to lose control too. And you have demonstrated that although you don't like to outsource your core competencies, you will, and you were successful in doing it.
Yeah, we became one of our core competencies became managing partners and getting what we wanted and what we needed.
Which I know you talked about, but actually we're going to save that for another episode because I think we could talk about a whole thing about how to manage those
yeah.
outsourced companies. So look for that because I think, Brad, you summarized it very well. And Brian gave a very good tip when you're outsourcing. If they say, this is how we do it, that's a huge red flag. You want, what did you say? Pivot.
If you're not flexible, if you can't pivot and you can't move and be fluid with the customer or the client you're supporting, then that would be an outsourced partner that I would, from what I've just in talking to Brian and hearing from him, I'd say like that'd be a yellow flag for me. I'd be a little bit concerned because if someone's too rigid, I can imagine what you're saying. If someone's too rigid and you're trying to differentiate yourself and someone's too rigid, that is going to take away from that differentiator of your product or service.
Right.
If you outsource too much of it. So
And they can do it because I've seen, you see a lot of these home businesses now where it's a soap or it's a tool or whatever, and they wrap it in a red bow or they put a candy in there or they put a handwritten thank you note. And so I can see where people would think, well, no one else could do this. Like, I'm sorry, but it can be done.
yeah.
By the way, I never buy soap if there's not candy in it. Every soap I buy.
In the middle of it, like a Tootsie
Oh,
Roll,
you're
or
probably
once
your
it gets down to the bottom.
Your example.
Okay.
You said they take soap and put candy in the middle. I'm coming up with your.
Well, hopefully.
Well, I don't
The
get
package.
says in the middle.
Of course, that would be a really bad
When I go to
idea.
any
Besides finding stale candy in your lotion, kids.
When I go to any store, I'm like, does your soap have candy in it? And you'll be amazed how many say yes. All right. One thing we want you not to outsource is you hit that subscribe button. You hit it.
Right.
In future episodes, send us a
If you're a
comment.
sponsor, don't outsource either. Come right to us. Well,
come
Right
to
to the
us.
source.
cheers. Happy Friday.
Right.
Enjoy your candy soap.